Hi everyone, my name is Mingxuan. Today I'll present my work handling plan-side empirical study of web application abuse in the malware. This work is done by me and all my colleagues from Sci-Fi Lab at Georgia Tech, advised by my advisor, Professor Saltaformaggio, sitting right there. So since I'm from a forensics lab, I'll start today's talk with a forensic investigation. So one day we saw a very suspicious tweet on Twitter platform, which is like a target with the IP address after that and 2 numbers. And it turns out this tweet is actually sent out by the attacker. So the attacker in this case registered an identity on a Twitter platform, in this case called Illusion, and created assets which means like this tweet on the Twitter platform. And later that day, there's a malware reported by the antivirus software running a victim machine. There is the security incident happening right over there. Now let's meet our incident responder, Phil. What Phil's job is to analyze the malware and try to identify the behaviors, what it can do. So first, Phil put the malware into sandbox. However, because of the anti-analysis techniques deployed in the malware refused to execute in the sandbox, which forced Phil to turn to the manual analysis, which is very time-consuming, but he still did a decent job. He found that this malware is fetched that message from the Twitter as the command on the victim machine. Actually, in our study, we found in total 6 different abuse vectors, which mean the malicious behaviors the malware could perform upon the web apps. So the first one, message fetch, is just like what Phil just found. And also the malware could download executable from the web apps and run the victim system. And meanwhile, the malware could also harvest victim information and send those messages to the web apps as well. Or more directly, the malware could just upload the victim file to the web apps. And we also found the malware download the file from the web apps as the configuration file on the system. And lastly, also very interesting, the jump server, which means like the malware could resolve the CNC address through the web apps. At that moment, any malware abusing any of these abuse vectors through the web apps will be called web-engaged malware. At that moment, Phil found one of those. So what Phil can do at the moment is like he goes to the abused web app and found that he can click malware and click send report. So this is how report is abused to the service provider. And let's meet our service provider, Elon. Elon received the report and opened it. However, without any malware execution context, just barely look at this tweet, he's asking himself, this is malicious tweet? I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't look like because it's like a tweet. There's no proof to prove that it's serving malicious purpose. So, which as a result, that malicious tweet hiding on the plan side. In this process, we can see there are 3 different problems. So the first problem is Phil needs to convince Elon that there is an abuse. And second problem is like obtaining this proof of abuse is labor-intensive and very slow. And the third problem is the current reporting system hinders the effective collaboration. So at that moment, this motivates our design of Marsea. The key idea behind our Marsea is actually that proof of abuse can be derived through automatic malware analysis and the information on the web platforms. We need to combine this information together, which will be the proof of abuse. So specifically, taking one malware as input, Marsea performed concocted analysis with in-house developed context-aware exploration strategy to mitigate the path explosion problem. And during that process, Marsea will force actually the malware in the early stage to bypass different anti-analysis techniques, which will reveal which web apps that malware talked to. However, talking to the web app is not evidence that the malware is abusing the web apps, because we saw many malware talk to web apps to test the network connection on the victim machine. So after that, Marsea used the vector rules to identify and confirm the abuse vectors. All those information will be fed to the web modeling component of Marsea, which will pull the identity and assets information from the web platforms. In this scenario, Marsea found that malware is fetched a message from Twitter and download a file from Pastebin. At that moment, just like any other collaboration attempts in the security community, they always want to know how serious this issue is. To answer that question, we made this observation first. So when the attackers create identity and assets on the web platforms, the service provider sometimes will expose engagement data to the public. For the pastebin, for example, they expose the view numbers to the public. Then after that, when the victim machine talks to these assets, those engagement data will be updated. Given these insights, Marsea used engagement data to evaluate the upper bounds of extended infection, which reflects how serious this issue is. Now, all of this relation together is the proof abuse field needs to collaborate with Elan. Specifically, field used Marsea to generate an in-depth proof abuse and hand this proof abuse to the Elan. And Elan will use this information to verify the abuse and perform remediation. In our study, for sure, there's one-by-one reporting. We also found our proof abuse enabled 3 different novel collaboration opportunities, which are lateral remediation, early stage remediation, and migration remediation. I will go through this one by one. Now, given Marsea is finally the time to collaborate, to do so, in our study, we work with Netscope, a leading secure access service edge provider, providing service to more than 25% of Fortune 100 companies. Together, we composed a 10K malware dataset with 3K randomly pulled from VirusTotal with 1,000 per year since 2020 to 2022, and 7,000 Netscope observed malware in the wild. Then, we deploy Marsea on those 10K malware, and we found like there are 322 of them abusing Google Drive, which is a very good reputation web app. If we look at the overall picture, we can see in our data sets, we found 8.3 of the malware are web app engaged malware. And the bad news we found is like the current collaboration needs on average 253 days to detect this malware. And as a result, until the day of our study, we found 48% of malware still with active assets on the web platforms. Now, given all those proof abuse, given all the study, it's time to really do the remediation. So the first, we perform one-by-one reporting. Given 430 web app engaged malware, Marsea found 129 of them with unique assets with the proof abuse. Then we went through the reporting process, which means that for each proof abuse, we go to abuse the web, app website, locate the asset on the platform, and we went through a bunch of web pages trying to see what reporting system the web providers support. Because some of them support email, some support one-click flagging system, some of them give us like a radio button web form, or more flexible ones, some of them have a free response web form. So given all of those information, we filed those reports one by one. And in total, we reported 129 assets with the proof abuse, and till now we have already took down 80% of them. However, as we can see in this table, this collaboration process is not always very smooth and fast. We still experience a long response time for some service providers. So at that moment, we were thinking whether there's a good way or more effective way to collaborate. So that's why we proposed 3 different novel collaboration. The first one we proposed is lateral remediation, which is built based on the key observation that the malware authors could use same identity to host so many different assets. For example, Marsea found this malware using the post on the pastebin, and also Marsea found the identity behind of it. After that, when the Marsea used web modeling try to collect the information from the identity, it found so many different assets hosted from it. Which means that once incident responders find one incident, they can use Marsea to find all the other malicious assets on the web app platforms and perform a large-scale remediation. And in our study, from only 3 abused assets, lateral remediation took down 52 additional assets successfully, which is more efficient. And after that, we proposed the early stage remediation, which is based on the key observation because the flexibility of the web apps, the web app engaged malware could drop additional web app engaged malware on the victim system, which form an infection chain. In the example, Marsea found the malware abusing Google Drive and Discord to download 2 payloads on the victim system. And one of those payloads will connect back to Google Drive, but with different URL and download another malware on the system. Which means that the incident responders actually could use Marsea to uncover this whole infection chain and do the remediation all at once. In our study, given 14 different malware from 3 families, early stage remediation could prevent 15 additional malware from being dropped. Last one is migration remediation, which is based on the key observation that attackers could migrate between different web apps or different identities on the same web app. For example, Marsea found attackers migrate from the GitHub to the Discord under totally different identities but host the same assets. Or more easily, attackers could just create a new identity on the GitHub hosting the same payloads. This means that once incident responders use Marsea, find the asset, report it to the service providers, now it's the time for the service providers to take the responsibility to perform asset matching on their platforms across different identities. And more importantly, after that, there should be information sharing process be there so that the service providers could share those malicious asset information to perform across web sanitizing. Since we are service providers in this scenario, we did what we can do. Given 6 assets, our migration remediation remediates 11 more web-engaged assets. And during our collaboration, we also got a lot of positive feedback from the service providers, and we're still engaged with them for the future takedown. And there will be more in the paper. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.